Good day, everyone. In the news now, there is an article that I find very interesting, especially in how it will play out. And when you have Julius Malema and Cyril Ramaphosa in the same headline, then you know that you've got a very interesting mix, and there's some very interesting changes happening in the political landscape. And in this headline in News 24, it says Malema gives the National Prosecuting Authority, or the NPA, an ultimatum to prosecute Ramaphosa for his role in the Marikana massacre. Now, this is obviously a 9-year anniversary of the Marikana massacre, and in the sub-headlines, it says that Julius Malema has given the NPA an ultimatum to prosecute Cyril Ramaphosa within 3 months. Should the NPA not adhere to his call, Malema has threatened to hold the prosecuting authority before the court. The EFF in 2015 opened criminal cases against Ramaphosa, Nathi Mthethwa, and the SAPS bosses at the time. And looking at the circumstances around this, there's a definite shift happening in the political landscape. And Adrian Basson actually said something very interesting today in another article that he wrote himself on Cyril Ramaphosa, and I found the narrative very interesting. And I've mentioned before that he has actually gone out and questioned certain things with regards to Cyril Ramaphosa. And I've called on him on numerous occasions to start looking at things and becoming a journalist. In this headline, he says, "Stop treating Ramaphosa like a saint and judge him as a politician." And I'm not going to do that article, but the fact that that kind of narrative is coming out now is interesting. There's a definite shift, and I believe that the critical mass that we're creating now is starting to put pressure on these journalists, and they are starting to see themselves falling on the side of the unfavored, and that if they don't actually start doing a proper job and shifting the narrative, they're going to find themselves out of work and in trouble. But in this article, it says EFF leader Julius Malema has given the National Prosecuting Authority an ultimatum to prosecute President Cyril Ramaphosa for his role in the Marikana massacre within 3 months, or his party will take the prosecuting authority to the High Court. Now, at the moment, I have no trust in the court system in the country, and that is my perspective based on the type of judgments that I've seen, my understanding of the Constitution, as well as the laws of the country. Speaking during the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union, AMCU, commemoration of the Marikana massacre, Malema said it was unsettling that despite his party's open criminal cases in 2015 against Ramaphosa, former police minister Nathi Mthethwa, and the SAPS bosses in Marikana, among others, none of the political actors had been prosecuted or at the very least questioned for their hand in the massacre. Now, the one thing that we could see that from that time that there was a very specific narrative, a narrative against President against President Jacob Zuma. And this is a narrative that was driven in the mainstream media, and everything was just focused on him, just like in the book 1984, where all the focus is on one person and everyone has to hate that one person. And you can see this enactment playing out in South Africa perfectly. And as Julius Malema here says, that nothing has happened. Well, there's very little prosecution that's happened with regards to many people in this country, and there's been many charges brought against people. There's been many claims made and statements given by people where nothing has happened. And you can investigate until you're blue in the face and spend taxpayers' money, and if you achieve nothing at the end of the day, it would have been a waste of taxpayers' money. So the people's hand in the massacre weren't questioned, and Cyril even apologized for his hand in the massacre, which means that he felt at fault. Now, when you feel at fault for something like that, it's quite serious. Monday marks 9 years since 44 people, including 34 miners and 10 police officers and security guards, died in the Northwest mining town. And when I had my meeting in Northwest, I traveled past Marikana, where this took place. He reiterated that South Africa could not have a situation in which politicians were above the law and no action was taken, even though cases had been opened against them. And then there's a picture of a massive crowd of people commemorating the Marikana massacre. And I can tell you that there are thousands of people there. So this is not a small thing to the people in that community. Remember what I'm saying now. This is not a small thing to the people of that community. And to them, justice has not been served. And when you see this kind of crowd rock up at an event, it tells you something. There's a lot of potential for a lot to happen. At the very least, Malema added the political leaders involved ought to be investigated for conspiracy to commit murder. And that's a very interesting charge because he uses the word conspiracy there, and conspiracies happen all the time. You know, a conspiracy theory is a theory. A conspiracy is very real, and there are many of them out there in the world. We are here to, I quote him, we are here to once more send our heartfelt condolences to miners that were killed by the ANC government. Till today, justice has not been served. We opened a case at the Marikana police station and mentioned Ramaphosa, Mtetwa and other politicians by name, but no action has been taken. I continue the quote, we call on the NPA to prosecute Ramaphosa, and if they are not going to do so, we want them to issue a non-prosecuting letter so that the EFF can proceed with a private prosecution, said Malema, adding, if they, the NPA, don't do that, prosecute or issue a non-prosecuting letter in the next 3 months, we are taking them to the High Court. So what he wants to do is he wants to let them say that we are not going to prosecute, and if they're not going to do it, then Malema wants to make a civil case against President Cyril Ramaphosa, and it's certainly something that he can do, and then it becomes very, very interesting. Ramaphosa was a non-executive director at Lonmin when the massacre happened, and is alleged to have sent an email on the eve of the Marikana shooting, not alleged this happened, wherein he allegedly told Lonmin management and government officials that events around the strike are plainly dastardly criminal acts and must be characterized as such. In 2017, while still Deputy President, Ramaphosa apologized for the manner in which the Marikana massacre unfolded, saying he was sorry for the type of language he used at the time. Well, you know, saying that and looking at the consequences, you know, I don't know if our legal system can actually deal with this. It's very similar to many things that happened recently in KwaZulu-Natal and around the country where people said things. If people say later that they're sorry, that they incited certain things or whatever, what does that mean within our legal system? I certainly don't know. I don't know if our legal system, like I say, can actually deal with it. But the unrelenting EFF leader warns Ramaphosa and said, by now he must know that if he is using his office to avoid prosecution, then just like his predecessor, former President Jacob Zuma, we will go and fetch him after he's out of office and still hold him accountable. Malema apportioned blame to South Africa's citizens, saying, we are partly to blame for the lack of justice because when we had the opportunity to punish them, the ANC government at the polls, by not voting for them, we failed to do so. Now, in that thing, he's very correct, that it's the people at the end of the day that make the decision. The only democratic thing we actually get to do in this country, because we don't have a democracy, is to actually make a cross at the polls. And anyone that thinks that that has no value, under our constitution currently, that's the only place where you can do something to change that constitution. Another speaker who did not mince his words regarding the ANC's hand in the Marikana massacre was United Democratic Movement UDM leader Bantu Holomisa. He said the current leaders called themselves revolutionaries but had employed similar tactics as the apartheid government to quell the protest. And I quote him, the ANC government used the same brute force that we had been accustomed to during apartheid rule, and what is disturbing is the lack of remorse, with no heartfelt apology or even visit to the affected people by the powers that be. So to me, this is still a simmering pot. Our government is hoping that people will forget. We must not allow that to happen, said Holomisa. Then a public holiday during the AMCU commemoration, the widows of the fallen mine workers called for the 16th of August to be designated as a public holiday. What that would do is make martyrs of these mine workers, and I'm not sure what effect that will have on the country, and we will see how that plays out. But this is a certain shift in political strategy, and it's something that you need to take note of. One of the widows told a heartbreaking story of how a child asked her why they still had to go to school on a day when the family was meant to commemorate the anniversary of their father's death. She called on the government to assist in installing a fence around the Marikana Koppie where numerous miners lost their lives. And I quote, "It is sad to see the place where many people lost fathers, brothers and sons in ruin, and it is not even cleaned and fenced in," said the widow. Now, this is certainly something that will develop in time. Because of the many threats that were made, the fact that there's many political leaders involved in this, and the fact that this is a shift in method, and certainly something that needs to be watched in future. I really want to thank you for watching this video, and thank you for subscribing to this channel. You can click the bell icon if you want notifications to new videos. And if you don't understand what this channel is about, you can go to the Question Everything in Moments in Time series playlists and watch those videos to know what we are achieving on the ground and why we need to fight a global enemy that is influencing the very political landscape within this country, and how things are shaping out for the current president, and how the attack against him is being formed and molded very meticulously. And it's a very interesting space to watch. Thank you very much. Till the next video.